Hello, everybody. Good to see all of you. Sorry for the delay today. Had a little recovery stuff to get done today. We had a little blizzard in Chicago. Always fun. So hopefully that gave all of you a chance to get on if you'd like to attend live tonight. You know, attending live and participating is so important. It's not everything, and I'm not saying you can't succeed without it, but I do find in my 11 years that people who actually participate live, like they're not just hiding behind a computer or only watching on replay without even trying to get on the call, honestly, these are the people that succeed. So I really encourage you to participate if you can. So let's get started. Okay, so today we're going to take a deeper dive into the why you tend to crave sugar. And we're going to go a little further with it now, because this is a really, really important thing that I want you to understand, because once you understand this, willpower changes. So this is huge, okay? Continuing to dive into the why is really, really important. And what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to sit back and put your learning glasses on, okay? Even if you think you have all the answers, I want you to trust in me, and we're gonna hopefully we're gonna learn some more things today, more things that you'll be able to apply to your real life that is going to help you shake the sugar. So once again, just a quick introduction. I am Stacy Portugal. I am your host for this evening. I'm a board certified coach, and I specialize in wellness and weight loss. And I got to this point because basically I was fad dieting for over 20 years. And I was just so frustrated. I'd go back and forth to the bookstore. I'd be buying like the latest book. And the truth of the matter is I got nowhere. I felt like a failure. And I just got to a point where I was frustrated. Everyone else around me could reach their goal. And I reached a goal through a lot of hard work, and it was like watching paint dry. But it was the absolute top of my BMI. And I didn't understand at that time how controlled I was by sugar and carbs. And so once I learned that, and I learned that by going out and getting an education in nutrition, once I learned that, it really changed everything. And now I share everything that I've learned. I share my experiences, I share my knowledge with my clients. And I'm also the creator, you may have heard of the 10-Day Detox and also Shake the Sugar Lifestyle Plan. So let's move forward. As you know, only you are the best judge of what is best for you and your body, and I care about you. So please do check with your doctor before beginning any diet plan. Okay, a few housekeeping notes. Right after this broadcast, I am going to put the URL in the comments so that if you would like, you can register for the replays. I'll send the replays out at the end. So we end on Thursday. By Friday, you should get the replays. And it's all free, so not to worry. These live webinars are about 30 minutes long. And as you can see, I'm actually doing a webinar on Facebook Live. It's a little new for me, and I am learning. But one thing I've noticed is all your questions and comments are delayed. So when I ask you a question, please don't be upset if I don't see it right away. Whether I see it live or on replay, I promise to get to it. Also, participation is not required, but it is encouraged. As I mentioned before, in my experience, people who show up and participate do tend to get the best results. Also, I encourage you to show up in a whole new way, in a way you may have never experienced before. I want you to hold yourself as powerful and I want you to hold the other sisters on this call as powerful. We are all along on this 5-day journey. Everybody is here to learn, and we're all here to support, encourage, and inspire, and learn. In the next 5 days, we'll be looking at sugar addiction from a whole new perspective. So be open to learning, go through the process, and participate so that I can help you. All right, so today, as I mentioned, we are taking a deeper dive into the why you are making food decisions that sabotage. And we're going to talk about how this information can increase your willpower. And we'll cover that tomorrow as well. So how has sugar affected your life? This was actually our homework from yesterday. I asked you to write your own sugar story. And I was telling you guys a story about how when I was hired by Weight Watchers, in order to prepare for our training weekend, we were asked to do some homework, and we had to write our self-disclosure. And sitting down and writing my story was so powerful for me that I invite you to do the same. And I also invite you to put your story in the comments, or you can put a quick summation of the comments. But I'd love for you to do that now while I'm speaking. Even if you're watching on replay, don't hesitate. Go ahead and tell me your sugar story. And even if you didn't do the homework from yesterday, spend a minute, and actually don't spend too much time thinking about it. Just kind of write it and see what comes out of your mouth and of your brain. So be really anxious to hear your sugar stories. I also want to encourage you to send me your sugar stories. You're welcome to private message me on Facebook or email me at stacy@stacyportugal.com. I'd love to hear your stories. All right, so let's review from yesterday, which was day 1. So the reality is, what we learned is that it's really not in your imagination. You actually are addicted to sugar, and it really begins in our brain. We talked about the hippocampus and the cadet nucleus and the roles that they play in creating memories and using that information from past experience to influence our decisions. It's sort of the memory keeper of our brain, and it actually encourages us to take action in order to bring about more new happy memories. And, you know, food is a happy memory when you've really enjoyed something. We also learned yesterday that it does begin with marketing, specifically food labeling, and we need to be smarter consumers. However, this addiction is way easier than an addiction to alcohol or to drugs. So let's be grateful. This is all we have to deal with in the scheme of things. I'm not saying it's easy, but the truth is, it's a lot easier than dealing with the other kind of addiction. So believe me, if I can get through it, you can get through it. I've seen many people get through it. It's really just a couple days of more of like an emotional discomfort, and you just let it go. And with support, it can make a world of difference. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how our story actually affects our outcome. And I'm thinking that this, okay, so it's not out of order, but I'm out of order, no problem. So this is stories that we tell ourselves, and they can really affect our behavior. Now, this might have something to do with your sugar story, but what I'm really talking about is your life's narrative that is always running through your head. I like to call it the chatter in your head. Your brain is like wired to be constantly making sense of things, constantly analyzing things it doesn't know. It may be filling in the blanks. Our brain is always on. And so the truth is you can actually be a victim of your own story. And your story at that moment in time, and it's all different, and your story refers to a lot of different things. We tell stories to ourselves, not just about food decisions, but about a lot of different things. And this story that we tell ourselves can actually lead to our behavior. And as I said, we could actually be a victim of it. Stories are based on past experiences, information that might be outdated, assumptions, negative self-talk, and a whole bunch of just other extraneous things. Stories are kind of hard to notice. And so if you really want to start noticing your story, you have to kind of be quiet. And what I mean by that is, and we can relate this to food. Next time you are somewhere and you're eating something you really know you shouldn't be eating, I want you to just pause for just a moment. And I want you to listen to that chatter in your head and see what it says to you. Stories are really, they can also be figments of our imagination. Like we fill in the blanks, we make assumptions. It can be based on outdated information from the past that's no longer relevant. It can even be in your subconscious. So if you really want to understand your story, like I said, you really have to be quiet in order to allow that story to come to the surface. Your life's narrative is always running through your head. So the truth is you act according to the chatter in your head, but the truth is life is fluid, and keeping your inner chatter in check by asking the right questions can help you change your narrative. So I want to give you a couple of examples before we go to that next slide. So let's say you're out to dinner and the breadbasket comes along, and the chatter in your head, because you really quieted yourself down and you're really listening, the chatter in your head sounds something like this. One of these might resonate, or it could be something else. I'm hungry. I've been dieting all day. I deserve this. One piece won't hurt. If there's something else that comes to your mind, write it in the comments. A story might also sound like this. Let's say it's late afternoon and you feel that sugar craving coming on. Like you just, for whatever the reason, you just need something. So your story might sound like this. It could be negative self-talk, such as, I'm a loser. I keep starting this diet. I just can't get past these cravings. I might as well eat. It might sound something like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm bored. I'm looking for, at that point, even a powerful question might be, well, what would make me happy right now? What am I actually hungry for in the late afternoon? And you might say to yourself, okay, wait, is it really food? Or if I'm bored, maybe I should call a friend, or maybe I should go out of the house for a little while. Or you might think something to yourself like, I'm not meant to be thin, I'm not worthy, I'm lonely, I'm bored. So the trick is, once you've quieted your mind and you're able to ask yourself some very important questions, because you can hear the chatter, you need to first listen to the chatter and then go ahead and check the validity of what you're saying. So for the breadbasket example, when you're saying something like, I'm hungry, you might say to yourself, okay, I am hungry. Is there a better option right now than bread? Is it possible for me to just order a salad or a side dish of vegetables to the table instead of eating bread before dinner? You might say to yourself, is this a part of my healthy eating plan? And then maybe your answer was yes, and then you're going to come back with another powerful question like, okay, well, how much is okay? How much should I eat? that's not going to blow it for me. You might ask yourself another powerful question at a time like that, such as, will this food help me reach my goal? Do you see how simple these questions can be? But it's like you're using that logical side of your brain. You're listening to what I would consider emotional thoughts, because this is chatter in your head. It may or may not be true. And once you've determined that it's not true or it's not productive, you need to start asking yourself the right questions. Does that make sense to you guys? If that makes sense, why don't you just give me a like? I really love this quote, and it's from Sharon Salzberg. She wrote an article called "The Stories We Tell Ourselves," and it's on Thrive Global, the website. And here's her quote: "Our minds are wired to create order, a cohesive narrative, and our stories are our actors. They tell us who we are, what matters most, what we're capable of, what our lives are all about." So the fact that our stories are our narrative, it's a really important thing to keep in mind, because these stories could be driving unwanted behavior. Does that make sense to you? Give me a like, guys, if that makes sense. Whether you're watching on replay or you're watching live, I'd love to know if that makes sense to you. Once again, guys, life is fluid, and you need to keep that inner chatter in check. And all you really have to do is ask yourself the right questions so that you can change the narrative. Changing the narrative is as simple as asking yourself the right questions. So I want to get into food labels really quick, and I don't know where my slides are for that, but we're going to get into it anyway. So yesterday we did talk a little bit about marketing, and I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper into marketing and food labels in particular, so that you are a better consumer. Food labels, as you know, are designed to get you to purchase a product. They often use one tiny piece of information as the solution to all your problems. They really don't consider the big picture. Things like, you may have seen this, I'm sure, many times on food labels: natural, gluten-free, omega-3s, high in fiber, whole grains, low in cholesterol, no fat or fat-free, and reduced sugar. These are all labels. They want you to feel that this food is contributing to your health. And the truth is, it's the last word to the consumer before the purchase decision is made. Let me say that one more time. It's the last word to the consumer before the purchase decision is made. And the truth is, food labels are loosely regulated by the FDA. So they could just say one word like natural, and that's a very vague expression. And they could say something like fat-free, and then we think, oh, fat-free must be good for us. But really, in fact, that's very old science. It draws attention to one narrow aspect of a product that are otherwise unhealthy. And it's just another thing that affects our food decisions. So they want you to feel like these labels contribute to your health, that they're solving a problem. They're often misleading. They're usually not supported by science as, you know, one thing that's going to improve your health. They're just taking a little bitty piece of science and they're, you know, isolating it. And it's very confusing for the consumer. And all it really does is it creates a lot more confusion for the consumer than they already are. What they're doing is they're leveraging their knowledge of psychology to promote sales. So we really have to be better consumers. And one way in which you can be better consumers is, first off, you can buy less processed products because most of these things are on processed products. However, sometimes you're going to see them on things like, you know, frozen fruit. No, there's nothing else in the fruit. Don't even worry about what the label says. If you want frozen fruit in your smoothies, you're good to go. But sometimes they stray us away from those whole foods and they encourage us to buy processed foods. And so we really need to be mindful about what we're buying and what those labels say. And truthfully, we need to ignore them most of the time. And at the end of the day, the thing that you should rely on the most are two things. One, the nutrition label. You want to take a look at how many carbohydrates is in a serving of that food. And is that a realistic serving for you? And what I do with my clients is I give them guidelines about how many carbs are appropriate on a low carb diet. And that number is personalized to that client. Another thing you really want to pay attention to is the ingredients. Ingredients are really, really important. So I want you to be a better consumer, to understand how consumer marketing really affects your decision making in the grocery store. And look, if you're not making good decisions at the grocery store, you have to say no again and again until that food is gone from your kitchen. So do you hear what I'm saying? It's really, really important that you're a better consumer. These do affect our decisions. Like that fat-free dressing that you think is such a good thing to buy because it says fat-free on the label. The truth of the matter is products that are fat-free wind up being higher in sugar because not only do the food companies want you to buy their product, they want you to like their product. So when you're taking away fat, typically you're adding sugar and vice versa. When you see things that say low in sugar or no sugar, sugar-free, they either have more fat and or artificial sweeteners. So you just have to be aware of food marketing, and you really have to go into the grocery stores with, your boxing gloves on and your hands are right in front of your face and you're on the defense. Now, guys, clearly it is dangerous to be eating too much sugar. So I want to quickly talk about diets that are high in carbohydrates, and of course sugar is a carbohydrate, and the fact that they can put you at risk for many chronic diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, cancer, mood disorders, and other mental health issues, acne, rashes, heart disease and stroke, kidney disease, migraines and headaches, and they could give you oral health issues. And we also know now that oral health is a huge predictor of cardiac health. So it's all tied in, folks. You don't want to be eating too much sugar. Not to mention, too much sugar can cause weight gain. So not only are we talking about the white stuff, but the truth is carbohydrates overall can cause weight gain and all these ailments that I just listed. Sugar is a carbohydrate, and if you're eating a high sugar diet, chances are you're eating a high carbohydrate diet. And that's the root of most of our health issues and most of our weight issues. So here's my question to you. how much sugar / carbs do you eat every day? Now, you may or may not know the answer to that question, but what I invite you to do as today's homework is for the next 2 to 3 days, I want you to be super consistent. For the next 2 to 3 days, I want you to write down what you're eating and drinking, everything. Don't leave anything out, including that glass of wine, including that cookie that you took from your daughter's lunch, everything. Write it down for the next 2 or 3 days. Now, you can write it the old-fashioned way, pen and paper, no problem. What I suggest, which will be much easier for you, is if you can, use a free app that will actually give you the nutrition information. I always recommend MyFitnessPal. It's very easy to work, it's pretty user-friendly, and it's a great first step to getting the awareness you need so that you can, once you're aware of your carbs, you need that awareness so that you can take the first step in cutting back on carbohydrates. And that's how we gain sugar freedom, is by cutting back. So this assignment is something that's going to go on for a few days, and I want you to be super diligent, you guys. And if you're not perfect, don't sweat it, okay? Write it down as best as you can, and you'll work with what you've got. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be back here, same time as today, 5 p.m. Central. I want you to feel free to invite a friend. All you have to do is invite them to this Facebook group so that they can see the presentation tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central. And to do that, you just, I believe on the top right, depending on what device you're using, of course, but you should see a place where it says invite friends. And I encourage you, invite friends to our group. Everything here is free and it's loaded with information. Tomorrow's topic is going to be techniques to help manage cravings, and we're going to talk about how much sugar is too much. So guys, I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow. And please have a wonderful, wonderful evening this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Please, if you're watching on replay, go ahead, like the things that really resonate you, and go ahead and put a small snippet or your entire sugar story on the comments. I'd love to read them, or feel free to send them to me via Facebook message, or you can email them to me, Stacy@stacyportugal.com. Okay, guys, have a great evening, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.